We start this morning with developing news. Authorities say last night U.S. Marshals were involved in a chase that ended with an SUV crashing into a tree at Rio Grande and I-40 Northwest. Very little information is being released at this time, but what we do know so far is one person is in custody. It's not clear what led to the chase, who the person is, or why they were after them. Again, we're working on more details. We'll try to bring them to you in this hour. If your child was ever in danger, how many people would know about it and how fast? A new proposal is aiming to send Amber Alerts straight to your phone. A state lawmaker pre-filed the bill yesterday. If it passes, all cell phone and pager companies that do business here in New Mexico will be required to issue Amber Alerts. Representative-elect Sarah Maestas Barnes authored that bill.
One of many ways that we can protect New Mexico's children. And in today's society, oftentimes we rely on our cell phone for an immediate source of information, and text messaging is one way to do that.
Now listen to these facts. Amber Alerts have helped save nearly 500 people nationwide. Most of those recoveries have happened since 2002. That's when a national Amber Alert coordinator was appointed. And Facebook has also started sending Amber Alerts on its news feed. Time now 6:02. A group wanting to help people boost their business is doing it in a very unique way.
Yeah, imagine pitching your ideas to investors on a ski lift. That's part of a contest that could send entrepreneurs home with some money to jumpstart their businesses. News 13's Catherine Mazzone is in the Newsplex with details on that. Pretty interesting, right?
Absolutely, Adam. Now, this all started when ABQID set out to find a way to help startups make meaningful connections with investors and lure investors here to New Mexico.
It's one-on-one, you and a venture capitalist, so they have to pay attention to what you're saying.
Now, that's part of ABQID's promotional video for the ski lift pitch contest at Taos. Representatives with ABQID say the idea should make sense to skiers and snowboarders. Well, that's because they say when you ride the lift, there's not a whole lot to do aside from talk. Katie Rice is on the ABQID board of directors. She says every entrepreneur should be able to pitch their idea in 3 to 4 minutes. Rice says if the lift ride is 10 minutes, that gives startups enough time to not only pitch their idea, but answer a few questions about it too.
If you're at a conference and the person you're pitching to sat right next to you, it wouldn't really work out, but it's perfectly natural on the lift.
Now, Rice invites anyone who's looking for some capital and the opportunity to make some connections to sign up for the contest set for February 25th. Back to you, Adam.
Catherine, thanks. Coming up in our next half hour, we're going to tell you how much entrepreneurs could actually win in that contest. A New Mexico man is suing police after he was arrested for swearing in a restaurant. The criminal complaint says 30-year-old Ty Trujillo dropped a few 4-letter words in a Farmington IHOP back in 2013, and police who were there eating arrested him for disorderly conduct, saying there were kids around. Trujillo's lawyer, Joe Kennedy, says using a 4-letter word in conversation is not disorderly conduct, claiming it's free speech, whether the Farmington Police Department likes it or not.
They have a personal preference for people, apparently, for people not to use the F word in public, and that's not a standard under the law.
Last summer, a judge dismissed Trujillo's charges, agreeing that simply using curse words does not rise to the level of disorderly conduct. Trujillo's lawsuit against the city of Farmington asks for damage for deprivation of civil rights. Farmington police declined to comment. The Mexican government plans to start issuing birth certificates in the U.S. They'll be available at consulates in this country. Mexico is trying to help people living in the U.S. illegally apply for programs that would allow them to live here temporarily. This comes as congressional Republicans begin an effort to stop President Obama's plans to reform immigration.
Frightening moments for a couple of Albuquerque teens after someone broke into their home. It happened near Chico in Tennessee. The teens called 911. Officers who were on their way to the scene spotted a suspect running from the area. They set up a perimeter and captured 2 suspects about 2 blocks away. Police say the suspects managed to break into the home. Luckily, no one was hurt. Deputies are still trying to find out who sent a letter to a downtown office that caused a big scare and an evacuation. Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department is investigating, saying an employee at the public safety building opened the letter with white powder in it. Late last night, the bomb squad determined the powder was not hazardous.
6:06 and happening today, outgoing U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel is expected to visit Fort Bliss, Texas. Hagel is at U.S. military bases as part of his final tour as Defense Secretary. KFOX TV in El Paso reports that Hagel will not be visiting the Veterans Clinic where 2 people were killed. He is also expected, though, to visit White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico at some point. An Ohio man is facing federal charges today, accused of planning to blow up the U.S. Capitol. Court documents say 20-year-old Christopher Cornell is a sympathizer for the Islamic militant group ISIS. He was arrested yesterday after he bought 2 semi-automatic rifles and several hundred rounds of ammunition, investigators say. The FBI says he planned to use them to kill government officials.
Workers, listen up. President Obama will make another push for paid sick days and paid family leave for workers who have neither. A top White House advisor says the president is expected to make the push during a visit to Baltimore today. The act would allow employees to earn up to 7 days per year for paid sick time. Now, believe it or not, today marks the 6th, that's right, the 6th anniversary of what was dubbed the Miracle on the Hudson. Back on January 15th in 2009, Captain Sully Sullenberger was forced to make an emergency water landing on the Hudson River after a flock of geese damaged both engines. Not only did Sully manage to land the plane on Hudson, or in the Hudson rather, all 155 passengers on board survived with only minor injuries.
Never forget that video.
Never can forget it.
Right.
Look at that. They were actually standing, on the wings, just waiting.
I know, so many crazy stories to tell too after all of that. Wow. Thank you. 6:31, new and developing this morning. A crash ends with a suspect in federal custody after authorities say he tried to get away from U.S. Marshals. It happened late last night near I-40 in Rio Grande. Authorities tell News 13 they were chasing a suspect in an SUV, but it all came to an end when a driver hit a tree. One person is in custody. It's unclear if there were any other people involved. A driver who was at a red light at the time says she was nearly hit after the driver in that SUV came flying down the off-ramp. Witnesses say they were briefed about what happened after the dramatic takedown.
They told me that he's been on the run for over a year and that he's a pretty violent guy.
Crews were out all night collecting evidence and cleaning things up here. That Jeep you see there was towed away just before midnight.
APD says the man who was shot and killed by officers Tuesday night fired at them first with a stolen gun. We now know where it came from. Police first got to San Mateo and Constitution around 5 o'clock Tuesday night looking for 2 suspected thieves. Police took one into custody with no problem, but say this man, John O'Keefe, ran. Police say O'Keefe shot at officers on 2 different occasions during the foot chase through that neighborhood before 2 officers fired back, killing him. APD says this is the gun and bulletproof vest he used during that night of the shooting. Both confirmed stolen from a Bernalillo County Sheriff's deputy. BCSO says the deputy was at work Monday when someone broke into his house and took them.
They do have serial numbers, and so we were able to trace that and confirm that it was in fact his body armor.
BCSO says the gun was the deputy's personal weapon and he had 2 others stolen that night that police have not found yet. A conflict of interest, that's what the city is calling it, after District Attorney Carrie Brandenburg says her office was told to leave the scene of Tuesday night's shooting. She even got this phone call.
But our concern is if your agency has basically said they're going to take these cases to prelims, then having them sit in these briefings changes the review by your office. The person sitting in there is a witness.
And that was a city attorney there in the phone call. For more than a decade, their offices have been allowed on scene for every police shooting under an agreement with APD. But Brandenburg says that all changed Tuesday after that conversation with the city attorney, who told her that can't happen anymore. Why? Because Brandenburg just charged 2 APD officers with murder.
And as a result of that phone call, Brandenburg's office was not a part of the police shooting investigation. Brandenburg says that violates a written agreement that the city and prosecutors signed on to.
For them to say we have a conflict of interest because we work with them or for whatever reason because we decided to pursue the Boyd case, and that was the reason given last night, basically means that they are above the law.
Brandenburg adds that shunning them from these briefings goes against the Department of Justice's agreement with the city, which calls for Brandenburg's office to continue to help investigate officer-involved shootings.
And meanwhile, the city says that agreement needs to now change after the DA charged Keith Sandy and Dominique Perez for the murder of James Boyd.
Having the same district attorney there and present that later signed the, and we'll get you a copy of that, the same, indictment papers as for their open counts, then that's of concern.
The mayor's office is now calling for transparency, saying it now wants a special independent prosecutor at the briefings that follow police shootings. Yesterday, the city sent a letter to Brandenburg asking to start the dialogue of changing their officer-involved shooting investigation partnership.
6:35 now. We're staying on top of how the two injured APD officers are doing this morning. Officer Lou Golson was shot nearly 2 weeks ago during a DWI stop. The suspect, Christopher Cook, took off but was eventually caught. Golson wants to get back to work, and APD says he's expected to be released from the hospital soon. Meantime, an APD undercover officer shot by a lieutenant during a botched drug bust last week is still in critical condition. He is scheduled now for more surgery.
Okay, are you looking for cash to get that new business off the ground? The Albuquerque group ABQID has a very unique opportunity. It involves a ride on a ski lift. News 13's Catherine Mazzone spoke to them about this event. She's here with the latest.
Well, that's right, Crystal. Now, ABQID is a group aimed towards identifying and helping to develop startup companies.
You've got entrepreneurs who are willing to take risks. You've got investors who understands what it takes to build a company. And you've got skiing in Taos, New Mexico, and the most amazing powder with the most amazing terrain in the world. What could be better?
Now, that's part of ABQID's promotional video for the contest. Representatives with the group say when you ride a ski lift, there's not a whole lot to do aside from talk. And in this case, they say entrepreneurs will have the undivided attention of investors. Katie Rice is on the ABQID board of directors. She says this contest will give startups the chance to sit shoulder to shoulder with folks who know what it takes to jumpstart a business, which doesn't always happen. Now, that's certainly not the contest's only selling point. Organizers say the winner is said to receive $10,000.
It's a perfect amount of time. You've got about 10 minutes to pitch your idea. Every entrepreneur should be able to tell their story in 3 to 4 minutes, and then enough time for a couple good questions.
Rice says once investors and VIPs hear the pitches, they'll narrow down the pool to a group of finalists who will then pitch their ideas over lunch. From there, the judges will pick a winner. Back to you, Crystal.
All right, thanks for that information, Catherine. Now, the contest is February 25th. For more information, you can check out this story. It'll be posted online a little later this morning.
Happening today, former Lobo and NBA player Kenny Thomas is coming back to his roots at UNM. The retired NBA standout will be announced as the new ambassador of the Men of Color initiative at UNM. The project was created in 2011. It focuses on academic success for Asian, Black, Latino, and Native American young men. Thomas says he looks forward to being a role model for other young students. The official announcement will be made tonight at the group's reception dinner. That's at the African American Performing Arts Center beginning at 6 o'clock.
Listen to this, a lesson in safety with this next story. A former police officer is suing a gun shop after he accidentally shot his finger off at the store. According to the lawsuit, Daryl Smith walked into a Kentucky store last March and asked to see a handgun. Now, while looking at the gun, Smith cocked the weapon, but the gun turned out to be loaded, shooting off his finger. His attorneys are now claiming negligence by the store, saying they failed to make sure that gun was not loaded.
Boy, incredible moment there. And they do say that it's a good thing it's on video, the attorneys there, so that they can have some sort of evidence in court.
You know what's interesting is there are reports, the attorney is saying that he actually lost his job with the police department because of this. They don't specify as to why, but that's pretty interesting. You
got to see this video. A rescue caught on tape after a dog fell through the ice. Firefighters in Massachusetts worked quickly to pull the dog out of the water in a small pond. Police say crews arrived shortly after hearing that animal was stranded, and it really only took moments to pull the husky-like dog out of the cold water. He had to be freezing. But they got from the shore to the dog very quickly, and it looks like he was none the worse for wear.
Yeah, and the good thing is they are trained for this type of rescue.
It'll happen all over the country for sure.
Oh, wow, this is an amazing story. 2 new rugs at the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office in Florida looked nice. That was until you looked a little bit closer. The problem that officials on Wednesday did not want you to see was the phrase, "In God we trust." Instead, it said, "In dog we trust," in one of the crests. A deputy working security at the building noticed the mistake. A sheriff's office spokesperson said the rug maker made the error and they'll replace them with corrected versions.
Boy, spelling error there, I guess, huh?